I want to talk about the pelvic floor and exercise. Now, in this program, you'll see we prescribe a combination of strength training, high intensity training, and also plyometric or jump style training. Now, that can, in some women, create some issues with the pelvic floor. So one of the things that may happen is you may experience stress incontinence or leakage with impact or stress. So the first thing we want you to do is get familiar with your own pelvic floor. And a beautiful way to do this is by looking at your vulva in a mirror. So when you're having a look with a mirror, what you should notice when you do a pelvic floor squeeze is this whole vaginal opening back to the anus will actually draw inward and upward when you do a pelvic floor squeeze. So we're looking at getting closure and a lift of the pelvic floor. Now there's a couple of different cues that we can use. We can look at thinking about the clitoris, the external part of the clitoris anyway, up here, and thinking about nodding that clitoris downward. And what that does is it really starts to get more the superficial pelvic floor muscle fibers and also the little fibers around our urethra, so our urethral sphincters trying to contract and squeeze. And those fibers tend to weaken as we get older. So what we're looking at is a squeeze and lift of the pelvic floor. So thinking about nodding that clitoris down. The second cue we can use is cueing more around the anus, so trying to contract around the anus like you're trying to control wind. What you'll notice when you do a squeeze with that cue is we tend to get the deeper pelvic floor and we feel more of a lift. So the clitoral nod, we tend to get more a closure and it feels more anterior, more towards the front. Squeezing at the back, we tend to get a lift of the pelvic floor. So one of the things I like to use with my patients who are having issues with stress incontinence, so whether that's with running, jumping, or impact, is using these vaginal cones. So you can see they come in two sizes. So this is the bigger size obviously and a smaller size. So we start with these bigger ones because they're easier to hold in. They also come with weights, just like a little barbell here. So like any exercise program, we start with the easiest option. So a bigger cone, and then we can add weight, and then we can go to the smaller cone. So you can very simply pop a vaginal cone into the vagina and just walk around the house during some daily activities. So maybe you're getting up in the morning, having breakfast, making your bed, doing things like that. If that feels easy, you can progress to doing things like maybe walking up and down stairs, going for a faster walk. And again, if that feels easy, we can then progress onto things like squatting and jumping and starting to challenge our body into those exercises or movements that cause the leakage. And having this cone in here just gives our body a little bit of feedback to know that we need a little bit more activation in those pelvic floor muscles. So these vaginal cones are a really good option. I would suggest though, if possible, go and have an individual assessment by a women's health physio so that you can, with your physio, come up with the best treatment plan for yourself. I'm going to put a link to these vaginal cones in the program as well, so you can look into those further. Let me know if you have any questions. Before you go, unrelated to exercise, but related to declining hormones, is we can get vaginal dryness. Now you can go and speak to your GP or your gynecologist about local estrogen creams, which are very helpful. You can also have a look at using lubricants for intercourse and also vaginal moisturizers. Now I'm here in my clinic at Vera, and one of our lovely physios, Brooke, Dobbo, has got a product range called Embody. She sells this lovely lubricant called Lube. I love that it's in a pump bottle. It's so convenient. This is a silicone based one, which I love. I've used this before. Of course, there's also water-based lubricants. And also, maybe it's a nice time in your life to reconnect to your own pleasure. So exploring things like this wonderful little vibe. Have fun.